So we're going to take a look at some action from the football field, as well as preview some playoff action from the courts and the pitch.
And as always, we will introduce you to our Varsity Spotlight feature athlete. This week, we're going to take you to Myers Park and introduce you to Brody Keefe. He's a young man who's tearing it up as a wide receiver in the Queen City. All that coming up. But first, let's take a look back at some of the highlights from last Friday night and the Gridiron. Jack.
Yeah, week 9 was a doozy as far as scoring is concerned, highlights are concerned. There was a lot of great games. Starting off with this one right here, Hickory going up against undefeated East Lincoln, a rivalry conference matchup that would probably determine who's going to stay at the top. East Lincoln was down 14-0 going into the second quarter. They went on a rampage, scoring 3 unanswered touchdowns. But in the end, it'd be the Red Tornadoes that have the last laugh, getting the win, 31-28 over their rivals in the Mustangs. There's more action going on conference-wise around the area. Independence has been up and down all season, and up against Mallard Creek, they made sure to show out in front of the home fans, shutting out Mallard Creek 35-0. That's really hard to do, and it should set them up very good for the postseason. All right, moving on. Corvian up against CSD. CSD was able to capitalize off of a lot of turnovers from the Cardinals. The reigning runner-ups just could not hold on to the ball in the first half. This one would come down to the wire in a conference rivalry game, but in the end, Corvian Community is going to get everything they need and get a big win over the Community School of Davidson. They are going to get a touchdown on the very last play of the game and then get the winning 2-point conversion as well, 29-28 over the Spartans. As we move on, more shutouts and more close finishes throughout the area. West Charlotte shutting out Butler 21-0 on the road to solidify their spot at the top of that conference in the MEC Power 6, taking on a new rival in the Butler Bulldogs. Looking in South Carolina, Nation Ford getting a much-needed win over Catawba Ridge. That'd be a team that had some big wins, and Nation Ford had some big losses throughout the season, so they needed that one as well. Moving on, Central Cabarrus taking on Barry, trying to get a win over Barry as well, and they would do so in pretty good fashion. The running attack was all over this one. They win 34-15, running right out of frame all the way to the end zone for a touchdown there. Central Cabarrus getting a much-needed win. Speaking of much-needed wins, Chambers and the Cougars have really been struggling in conference play. They get a big win. They put the hurt on North Meck on the road, getting a win. All right, look at this one. West Cabarrus and Cox Mill in overtime. And they get the game-winning touchdown, 35-34 to beat Cox Mill. And last, but certainly not least, right after this touchdown play, we're going to see Statesville going against South Iredell. Both teams needing wins, but Statesville, the Greyhounds, are going to need it just a little bit more. They win 47-29. Big win. There was a really big win this week, Jeff.
Absolutely. One more game to take a look at this past Friday night. One that the Panthers from Providence High will never forget. They were down 28-14 to Palisades. Less than a minute to go in the game. The Panthers would get a score here to get within 7. Then they would kick an onside kick and recover, but of course they still need to score, and they did. Less than 10 seconds to go. Providence gets the touchdown. Right there, he almost bobbled it and dropped it to tie it all at 28. So this one would go into overtime. Palisades would not score in their possession. The Panthers would get the fullback into action. He would score the game winner, capping an unbelievable comeback.
We had a shot. You know, we had enough time left. We had one timeout left. We just had to be really cautious about where we went with the ball, who we went to, and just make sure at the same time that you take care of it, because you got to throw it, but you got to take care of it as well. You know, and you kind of run one or two things here and kind of see what it looks like and how they move, and you figure it out at the end. Yeah. I mean, it's big, man. I mean, you win a game like that, and then you get some kids that really start believing and thinking that they can do anything that they put their mind to, and yeah, it can make you sore. So that was number 1 on the checklist on Sunday, making sure when we come in for our meeting today, right after school, that they understand, like, nothing changes. They don't walk into practice any different than we have the last 5 weeks. This is not a game that we can just say, yeah, we're going to show up on Friday, because they're pretty good. They've gotten a lot better. They've got some bodies. They run the ball well, and they're pretty physical up front. And so making sure that our guys know that the next step to where they want to be is this Friday.
All right, now there's some other big performances like we talked about. Even if they lost, they still had big games. Grant Lawless has been ruthless all season long. One of the most dynamic scoring quarterbacks that the area has in terms of getting it done over the air. He's a Wake Forest commit. He put up 12 for 19 for 274 yards and 3 touchdowns like this one you see here on an absolute bomb to take an early lead over Hickory. Even though they would lose 31-28, he brings a lot of talent. The Demon Deacons got a guy coming in next season to Winston-Salem that really can elevate an offense.
Yeah, the Deacon fans pretty fired up, I got a feeling, when they see a guy like that. All right, we now turn our attention to week 10 of the high school football season, and it's now time to start thinking, of course, about the postseason and winning conference titles.
Absolutely. We're going to start with a look at our week 10 game of the week for WCCB between Myers Park and Huff.
Yeah, this one could decide who wins the Greater Charlotte 7A, 8A conference. Both the Mustangs and the Huskies come into this one undefeated in conference play. Myers Park has a potent offense, while the Huskies, they have one of the best defenses around. Mustang head coach Chris James says this one will be a good one.
Big game Friday night against Huff. Obviously, one of the best teams in the state in 8A. Historically, they've been one of the powerhouses in the state of North Carolina and the city of Charlotte. So definitely a challenge for this group. We got a group of 26 seniors that have not beat Huff since they've been here. So that's kind of been, the message this week. Obviously, they got a lot of talented guys, a lot of guys that will be playing on Saturdays. Coach Baker does a really good job over there. Offensively and defensively, they cause a challenge for you. They definitely make you go a little bit extra in your bag of game planning. Quarterback's really good. The running back, who was a JV kid last year, was really good. Got some explosive receivers. Defensively, they fly to the football, cause a lot of havoc. So definitely keep you up at night trying to prepare for this game. But I think our guys are excited for the opportunity to get a chance to play on senior night in front of a big crowd and have a chance to play for the conference championship. So we're excited to get going.
It is going to be electric. Our WCCB game of the week between Myers Park and Huff, it kicks off right after we're done here in Varsity Spotlight on WCCB, so make sure you stick around for that.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a high-profile matchup between two really high-scoring teams.
Absolutely. You think about Myers Park and that offense, but we mentioned that defense that, the Huskies have. It's pretty tough.
Absolutely. All right, now the stage is set for the game of the week. Let's take a look at all the other marquee matchups taking place at the top of the hour. Starting off with a matchup that never disappoints.
Yeah, Providence Day taking on Charlotte Christian. We know those two schools. We know the competition they have. And this is where Charlotte Christian just really wants to, prove, hey, we belong with the big boys. But easier said than done when you talk about Providence Day.
Yeah, it seems like, Charlotte Christian is always just a step behind the Chargers, and they haven't, since Chad Greer's really taken over the program, whether it's in the semifinals, whether it's in the last week of the season. Right. They always play each other about 3 weeks out, and it's always a tough battle. But what could be the biggest game of the week? Undefeated Ashbrook, one of the few left in the area, is hosting the rival Crest Chargers. That is going to be a huge game. Both teams fighting for the top of that conference. We've seen both Crest and Ashbrook be incredibly dynamic and high-powered, so that's going to be a really, really good one.
And you talk about the history of both those schools, it's pretty impressive. All right, and then Latin, taking on Country Day, another two private schools going at it. They still all try to chase, Providence Day, but these are two teams that want to make a statement as we get near the end of the season. And I've seen Latin, if Latin can start off quick, I haven't had a chance to see Country Day as much, but you look at Latin, if they can get out of the gate quick, they can cause some damage.
Absolutely. All right, now another matchup, Concord-Salisbury. Salisbury has been trying to find their footing all season long, and they have a chance to do so against Concord, but Concord looking to stick around in that conference as well. Then there's some two teams that really need some wins.
Yeah, exactly. Concord just has a tough time, getting going. Yeah, they just really do.
Absolutely. Butler and Mallard Creek obviously both coming off of big losses, shutout losses.
Right.
So both of those teams are really going to try to see if they can put the hurt on the other. The question is, who really wants it more?
Yeah, Butler just, over there, it's been tough.
Absolutely, and it can't be really any tougher than in that conference. There's some other big games. Cuthbertson and Charlotte Catholic, Mooresville, Statesville, the Battle of the Iredales, East Lincoln at Maiden. And
that'll be a good one.
And then undefeated Indian Land taking on Fort Mill. It should be a great Week 10 of action for the high school football season.
Absolutely. All right, coming up, we have more of Varsity Spotlight coming at you. We'll check in with our Varsity Spotlight feature athlete. That's coming up next.
Welcome back to Varsity Spotlight. One of the best football players this season at the Queen City is Brody Keefe from Myers Park.
Absolutely. The future Duke Blue Devil has been establishing himself as one of the top-tier receivers in our area, and he is this week's Varsity Spotlight feature athlete.
My name is Brody Keefe. I'm a senior at Myers Park High School. I would say I've always wanted to play wide receiver, yes, but it started out, I was a running back all through middle school, and then I ended up breaking my ankle, which I then played receiver ever since then, and it's been honestly the best decision I've made so far. I was born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina. I moved when I was in second grade. I have an older brother and sister. Me and my brother, I would say, are the closest. We do everything together, really sports related the most. But my sister, she lives at home right now, so I'm always seeing her every day.
So we have a 24-year-old daughter, Riley, and then Graylin is our middle child. He's 22, and then Brody's the baby at 18.
My brother, he played soccer collegiately for a year, and then my sister, she played basketball throughout high school. She graduated from App State. My brother's enrolled at App State right now. I started playing football in 5th grade at a little Pop Warner place. Got into it in middle school, played all 3 years, got a major injury my 8th grade year, then came back freshman year, and I transferred to Myers Park my sophomore year. Been here ever since.
Myers Park has been just a blessing for us. We moved here when he was in 10th grade, very unsure. We literally packed up and sold our house on a whim and moved into the area so that he could play here for these coaches. He had already put in all the work and had gotten some offers. Coming here, he was taking it to the next level by playing for some really excellent coaches. They were going to get him ready for the next level, and we were sure of that.
Yeah, my coach, he's one of the best dudes. It's a big part of why I came here. He's a big mentor on and off the field. He's just a really great all-around dude. Become a big part of my life.
When we met Coach James, it just clicked. He loves fiercely, not just Brody, all the kids.
So the first time I met Brody was right after he transferred in, and I mean, obviously you see it with his stature, and you know that jumps out at you. But you know, as a coach, I'm one. Well, I got to see it for myself. You know, I got to see if he's as good as advertised. I got to see if he has the potential from what I've heard. And you know, his first day on the field, you're like, okay, yeah, this is the real deal. He's just different. You know, that's kind of been over the last 3.5 years. That's kind of been my conversation with college coaches. Good players are just different. That's just what it is. The Jordans, the LeBrons, the Tom Bradys, I'm sure their coaches said the same thing. There's just something different about them in comparison to their teammates.
I went to a camp my sophomore year, went to Ohio State. It was kind of just a last-minute thing. We just flew up there, went to the camp, didn't really think anything of it.
After Brody had gotten a couple of offers, we sat down with one of his training coaches out at RoPro and went over what his goals are. And his top goal was to get an offer from Ohio State. So we decided, why not, on a whim, let's just book a flight. And we flew up to Columbus.
And they invited me to a private workout with the receiver coach, which was like insane to me that I was doing that at the time. And then as the camp goes on, we're doing routes on air, stuff like that.
So I'm in the end zone. I'm watching, they were doing routes on air, and Tavion St. Clair was the quarterback.
He threw a ball to me. It was a little overthrown.
He just launched a ball into the end zone, and I'm watching Brody, and I'm so nervous.
And so I went up and grabbed it like that with one hand. Brody
just goes up and one-hands it, and it was insane. Everybody went crazy. I looked down, and like Coach Day is down there, Coach Hartline was down there. It was a big moment.
Yeah, I saw the Ohio catch. I mean, superstar. You have to kind of be in awe at times when you see a kid like that make a play like that. But to be able to see him do it on that level, at that school, with that kind of competition is kind of cool. Something he can always remember.
I think that really set the tone for me, like got me locked in.
And then at the end, they called us back. I remember he said, we need you guys to come inside for a minute. And so we came inside, and Coach Day was standing there, and he sat us on the couch and gave Brody an offer, and that was that.
Brody is he's a guy. When you see a dude, you know a dude. He's a guy. I know for a fact when coaches are game planning for us, there's like 1 or 2 players that you star to say, hey, we gotta make sure we know where this guy is at all times. If they don't do it, they're crazy, but I would be willing to bet every school that we play, they put a star by his name.
Childhood dreams always been playing in the NFL, provide for my family because they've gotten me to where I'm at today. Definitely professional has always been my dream.
I'm really just thankful for all of the experiences, whether he plays his last game this year or whether he continues to play into the NFL, which is our hope. That's it. I mean, he's a good human.
So I committed to Duke in June. I built a really good connection with all the coaches on the staff, specifically the receiver coach. I connected with him really well. I mean, he made the decision pretty easy for me. Been one of the best decisions I've made so far.
I think it's been just an absolute privilege to watch you grow. You make our house happy and you keep us all laughing. I'm so, so proud of what you do with football.
My name is Brody Keefe, and this is my Varsity Spotlight.
Okay, we get to see Brody in just a couple minutes in our game of the week. I'm sure Coach Baker and the Huff defense will kind of focus on him.
You have to. Like we said, he's our Varsity Spotlight this week, but it's almost been so every week. We've said his name every single week.
Every Friday night on the Blitz.
Yep.
All right, so if you have a great story to tell like that, or you know someone who does, make sure you reach out to us at WCCBcharlotte.com or make sure you hit us up on our social media.
All right, coming up next, it's state tournament time for volleyball, and straight ahead we'll show you some action from the early rounds of the playoffs. More Varsity Spotlight after this. Welcome back to Varsity Spotlight. I'm Jack Taylor. The state playoffs have started for volleyball, and a number of local teams have their eyes set on the state championship. The second round was played early this week. Jeff, what do you got for us?
Yep, let's start our highlights with some 8A action. The 5-seed East Meck taking on the 4-seed Northwest Guilford. East Meck had to make the trip for the second round matchup, and getting the 3-1 win made the road trip worthwhile. The Eagles battled to win the last 3 sets and now move on to round 3, where they will face the top seed in the 8A bracket, West Forsyth, who defeated Myers Park in the first round.
All right, another second round 8A matchup saw Huff, the 6th seed, taking on Audrey Kell, the 3 seed. This one would be a great one all the way through. Audrey Kell, though, get the sweep, winning 3 straight sets. Those sets were close, though. Knights winning 25-20, 25-21, 25-22, never really bounding out. Audrey Kell advancing to the next round and will face Jordan High School, who upset the 2 seed in Hope County.
All right, let's switch to the 7A bracket and start with Davie County taking on Marvin Ridge, the #1 seed in the state tournament. Mavericks all season long have shown they might be the best volleyball team in our area. It showed in round 2. The top seed had no problems with the 15 seed. They sweep Davie County in straight sets and move on to the next round as they continue to make that strong run for a state championship.
More 7A action for you from round 2. Hickory Ridge taking on North Meck. Hickory Ridge, the 9 seed, North Meck, the 8. This one is a battle throughout. Hickory Ridge winning the first set. North Meck coming back and winning the next 2, but the Raging Bulls would come back to win the 4th set. This one would go down to the 5th and final set. North Meck getting that 15-13 win, getting the match win and advancing to the next round.
All right, on we go and stick with the 7A action. Independence, the 13 seed, taking on Weddington, the 4 seed, and the Warriors would win this one in a sweep. Weddington came out strong. They dominated early on. The Patriots never really got anything going on the offensive side of the net. The Warriors win this one 3-0, and they move on to the next round. Weddington could be a tough out as they continue to run for a state title.
One more set of highlights from the 7A bracket. South Iredell, the 11 seed, taking on Mooresville, the 6 seed. Once again, we've got another sweep in postseason action. Mooresville winning the first set big, and South Iredell could never really get back on track. The Blue Devils get the win in this match and move on to the next round.
And we close out our volleyball action with some 6A action. TC Roberson taking on North Iredell, who knows something about winning a state title. North Iredell, the 4 seed, TC Roberson, the 13 seed. This one would be a lot closer than you might think. The lower seed, TC Roberson, gave North Iredell all it could handle in this one. It would go back and forth, but in the end, North Iredell wins the 5th and final set to win the match 3-2 to advance on and continue their quest for another state volleyball title.
All right, now time to switch back to the gridiron, tell you who won our Play of the Week poll from last Friday night's action on the field. We put up 3 plays this past Monday and had you choose. This week's winner comes out of Community School Davidson. The winning play doesn't always have to come from the winning team. Tyler Johnson getting the tough run, bullying his way into the end zone to really set things going for the Spartans, get them back on track. He was able to get quite the effort and get the touchdown. Unfortunately, CSD would lose by 29-28.
Still a great play, though.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll have 3 more plays for you to vote on next Monday starting at noon on our website, wccbcharlotte.com. And coming up, we'll check some of the standings from around the high school gridiron and a lot more coming at you on Varsity Spotlight. Stick around. And welcome back to Varsity Spotlight. Time to take a look at some schedules and some standings as we wrap this show up. We start with some volleyball, I do believe.
Yeah, NCISAA 4A State Volleyball State Championships this weekend. Charlotte Latin will be taking on the reigning champs in North Raleigh, who took down the 1 seed last year.
Can't get any better than that.
No, so it'll be a good game on Saturday at 1 o'clock over at Carmel Christian. Moving on through
some soccer stuff.
Yep, absolutely. Statesville Christian, the 2 seed, taking on Oakwood, the 1 seed. Gaston Day taking on Caldwell Academy as well. And then that's 1A up there, 2A down there. And then 4A, you've got Covenant Day taking on Christ School. Covenant Day losing to Raven Gap last year, so trying to rewrite that ship there.
Winding up football.
Absolutely.
Let's talk some football and show you some standings real quick as we get ready to wrap this show up. A lot of good football being played.
Absolutely. You're going to start with the MEC Power 6. Can't get any better than that. West Charlotte, the commanding 3-0 lead over Independence, who's still right there. Butler right down there as well as 2-1. And then Mallard Creek and Chambers rounding out the bottom 2 spots in the top 5. There are going to be some big ones there, of course, when you see West Charlotte and all those teams.
There's the Prov.
Look at Providence gets a big win over Palisades. Audrey Kell moving down there as well, with Palisades getting the win over AK. Should make a really interesting last week of the season.
Yeah, especially with these two meeting up.
Absolutely. All right, and then last but certainly not least, not that one, we already saw that, but if we were to look at the GCAC, you're going to see Myers Park and Huff, of course, sitting at the top 2, both undefeated, and that's going to be a huge, huge game in our game of the week.
Yep, game of the week. Myers Park Huff, that's coming up right after this. Kickoff like 7 o'clock, and then we'll see you at the Blitz, 10 o'clock right here on WCCB. Enjoy your Friday night. It's a lot of football coming at you. We'll see you at 10.